Welcome to episode 6 of The Average Geek Show. My name is Brian.
My name's Philippe.
And we are your hosts this evening for The Cartoon Cast.
Oh, yeah. You know, this is great. I was just thinking about this because Riley and I, we were just watching SpongeBob for some reason. He hasn't watched SpongeBob SquarePants in ages. And all
for
of a
good
sudden...
reason.
Well, yeah, and... and... You know, it was so crazy that when you came to me and you were like, hey, let's talk about cartoons. I'm like, yeah, you know, that would be so great because there were so many awesome cartoons when we were growing up. And even today, there's a lot of great cartoons.
There's a few good ones today, but this podcast is going to be mostly a nostalgia podcast about cartoons that we grew up with in the 80s and the 90s. Because as we know, Philippe is an old man and I am on my way to becoming an old man.
But I'm the better looking of the two, so.
Yeah. It's debatable, young man. Old man. Yeah.
Old man in the sea.
So, all right, let's get this thing rocking, shall we?
Oh, yeah, baby.
All right. So this is not going to be like a top 10 list. This is not going to be anything but us, you know, sitting back, reminiscing about the old cartoons that we grew up with. And, you know, we have some of you were wonderful enough to comment on the Average Geek Show Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Average Geek Show Official. And we're going to get you guys involved in the conversation. And believe it or not, a lot of your guys' comments match up with ours. So that's a good thing to see.
Totally.
Philippe, since you were the elder host.
Shit.
Why don't you go ahead? What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh, God, man, my favorite. That's really hard to say. You know, I would have to say my ultimate favorite cartoon had to be Voltron.
Oh, nice.
Oh, my God, dude. The 5 lions, they were all different colors, and they all came together and formed this big bad ass of a frickin' robot, you know, and they were all individually controlled somehow.
Work the arms, you asshole!
Well, it was kind of weird because, like, when all the lions would assemble, it's like their seats would like go through the body of Voltron, then they'd all be in the black lion head, you know, and they were like, you know. So in hindsight, that's like, how did that all work? But you know. That kind of always satisfied my nerdiness, I guess, because I always liked, you know, as you know, I'm a big sci-fi guy. You know, I like Star Wars and especially Star Trek, and I like robots. So that was kind of like, you know,
you like robots even.
Robots even. Oh, there's the German.
No
German yet.
What about Zoidberg? No, I do horrible impressions. I'm sorry.
So yeah, Voltron, I would have to say that was probably my favorite. There was 2 types of Voltron that were popular. There was actually 3, but the 2 types that were shown here in America was Lion Voltron with the 5 lions, and the car Voltron, which I think had like 50 different cars and planes and shit to form Voltron. It was ridiculous.
So basically it was like pre-Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's crazy because I look at Power Rangers nowadays. When Riley was little, he used to love the Power Rangers.
Now, what incarnation of the Power Rangers? Because when I was little, that's when the original Power Rangers was on TV.
Yeah, I think he stopped at Samurai Force.
Oh, my God.
So, you know.
What is that, Power Rangers 56?
Something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. But when I see that, you know, like the Power Rangers, the big robot that they had.
They're called Zords.
Zords. Again, that really reminded me of like Voltron and Transformers and GoBots and Robotech and all that stuff.
You know, kind of on the same line. Do you remember like an old anime show called G-Force?
Yes.
With the bird costumes?
Yes. Oh my God, dude.
I used to watch that on Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was the most awesome thing, and then it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, seriously. Back to Voltron though. I mean, you know, Voltron was awesome. I just love the whole 5 lions coming up, one big kick-ass robot. You know, I don't know if you ever watched Voltron or...
I actually did not.
Okay.
Voltron was not really being aired. I remember I had one of my aunts had gotten me a little Voltron figure, and it was
Right.
like the fully formed Voltron. And I was like, "Oh, cool, Power Rangers." And she's like, "No, that's Voltron." And I just looked at her like, "What the hell is Voltron?"
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older that I, went and watched a couple of little short videos of like Voltron Assemble. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty cool, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I enjoy it near as much now
Right.
as if I had seen it when I was a kid.
Yeah, like the car Voltron, I can't even remember the characters in that. In the line Voltron, there was only 5 of them, so it's a lot easier to remember the characters. My favorite would have to be, well, 2 favorites would have to be the leader, the Black Lion driver. His name was Keith, I believe that was his name, and then the other guy who drove the Red Lion was named Lance. And he was kind of like the bad boy, like the kick-ass bad boy,
They're
like,
always
"Oh,
named
you're
Lance.
Cool. I know, right? But it was really cool because in homage to Voltron, there was a independent, like, I guess, filmmaker or something. I guess he was, he did this thing for film school. And he did this thing where the Red Line, where Voltron had just got done fighting the bad guys, and the Red Line was kind of adrift in outer space. And it was just like Lance talking. It's like, "Hey, this is Lance from the Voltron Force, blah, 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 blah." And it was really cool because it was like, oh, man, a live version of this would be fucking awesome.
Well, and they had planned to do a live-action Voltron movie.
Yeah, I saw
just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, which is sad because I saw concept art of it, and it looked really cool. And with all the technology and CG, and you see how Transformers is. I mean, Transformers is pretty impressive, CG, special effects wise. It's pretty impressive,
Right?
So it would be really cool to have, I think, to have a Voltron. But yeah, again, it's one of those things that just kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, well, that and Thundercats. I mean, we were supposed to get a live-action Thundercats
I remember that.
This was just a couple of years ago, and it's just
Right.
like, why did these not go through?
Yeah.
But yet movies like The Smurfs and Alvin and the Chipmunks get greenlit. I'm sorry. It's just bring back the awesomeness.
Seriously. One of the characters I thought was utterly ridiculous in Voltron, his name was Hunk. I kid you not.
Seriously.
His name was Hunk. He was kind of the big...
He was the lug.
He was like the bruiser, the big guy, the bruiser, of the whole thing. He drove the fucking...
The pink lion?
No, he drove the yellow lion with the big fucking rocket launcher on it, so he was this badass. But he had a name of Hunk. Who the hell
Names their child
Hunk? Like, is the mom sitting there...
Yeah, that was a hunk of meat I just passed. I know, I'll call him Hunk. It'll go great with his father's name, Bruiser.
But yeah, that was my favorite cartoon growing up as a little guy.
Right
What
on.
about you, man?
Well, I grew up in the 90s, so I was kind of like in the prime for like awesome, really well done cartoons.
Yeah, the technology then had changed, animation technology.
Well, not only
everything.
that, but you had like some big names deciding to do children's cartoon shows,
Right.
And they were really good, and they still hold up
Oh,
to
yeah.
this day. Like one of my favorites growing up was Animaniacs, which was
yeah.
produced by Steven Spielberg.
Right.
A friend of mine just found the seasons on DVD.
Okay.
And so we were rewatching some of them, and it's just like the parts that I used to laugh at, I didn't laugh at.
Right.
But I was picking up on the adult humor in the show, and I was busting a gut,
Yeah.
just because, like, the whole "hello, nurse."
Yeah.
I always just thought that was kind of funny just because of the way he said it.
Right.
But then I realized, oh my God, just before he said that, it was like total sexual innuendo.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant minds went into those shows. Those shows like Animaniacs, the spin-off show Pinky and the Brain.
Yep.
Oh my God, I love that show. Freakazoid.
I never saw that one.
It was kind of Freakazoid was hysterical. It was this really obnoxious superhero character, and he didn't fly. He just ran around with his arms out and fists up in the air. And his only super, I think he was like indestructible. His only superpower really was the fact that he annoyed the shit out of the villains till the villains screwed up and ended up like blowing themselves up or something.
Nice. That's awesome.
You know, you had great shows like that. And then, of course, Batman the Animated Series.
You know, that came out when all these ones that came out that you're talking about came out just after I was starting to get out of cartoons. You know, it was just around that time.
Right.
And I heard a lot of good things, especially about Batman, the Animated Series.
Well, that's where we had Mark Hamill's Joker first come in.
Really?
Yes. Mark Hamill first got his start as the voice of the Joker in Batman, the Animated Series.
And you would never think that Mark Hamill, freaking Luke Skywalker, would be an awesome Joker.
No, you really wouldn't. But now I hear him talk, and all I can hear is the Joker. You know, he did an interview, and we'll post that interview in the show notes. He did an interview with... he's told this story so many times. One of the interviews was at Star Wars Celebration.
Okay.
And in this interview, he is talking about how he got the part for the Joker. Originally, when he found out they were doing a series, he contacted them and said, "I really want to do a part. Do you have a part for me?"
Right.
And he ended up being the voice of the guy that pushes Victor Freeze into a vat of like liquid nitrogen and turns him into Mr. Freeze.
Interesting.
And then after that, I guess, he did an audition for just like a general voice audition, and they asked him to come back and do an audition as the Joker.
Wow.
And he says he was originally freaked out by the idea.
Yeah.
And he's driving through LA trying to come up with a Joker laugh. And he remembered thinking how psychotic he must look driving through LA, testing out all these high-pitched cackles.
Oh,
and then he
God.
realized, wait, I'm in LA. This is normal.
Yeah, right? Seriously.
But, I mean, it's just great. And that's what Mark Hamill did after Star Wars.
Yeah.
Is he became a major voice actor.
Yeah, he's a great voice actor. That video that we're going to be posting, it's just so crazy how he's talking like Mark Hamill. He's doing the interview.
Right.
And then they ask him, hey, can you...
Give us a little Joker.
Yeah, it's like he flips a switch, and it takes him like one or two sentences to really get into it, but
it's not just his voice that changed. His whole body language, his whole demeanor changes.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into stuff like that when we do our voice actors show, because there are so many incredible voice actors that it's going to take maybe one or two shows to talk about them. With incredible voice talent, great writing. I mean, some of the cartoons that came out of the 80s and 90s were just gold.
Oh, seriously, yeah.
Another one of my favorites was Tiny Toon Adventures.
That was so great. What wasn't... Oh, God, weren't the characters like little nieces and nephews of Bugs Bunny, or I can't...
They were students of the original Looney Tunes characters.
That's right.
But you had like Buster and Babs Bunny.
Right.
No relation.
Right.
And you had Plucky Duck, Hampton the pig.
Yep.
It was another series done by Steven Spielberg. It's just really funny. And it's nice to see that there's a TV channel. I think it's called... I don't remember the name of it.
Are you thinking of Boomerang?
No. Boomerang plays the classic stuff like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Like some of the shows from like the 60s and 70s.
Right.
But it starts with an H.
Oh, Hub?
Hub, yes.
Yeah.
Hub is starting to replace some of these old cartoon shows from the early 90s and the late 80s.
Oh, wow.
Like, I know they're rerunning Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain.
Wow.
So a whole new generation is getting exposed to these awesome cartoons.
Yeah, I when Riley was little, we would always watch it was always either Blue Man Group DVD.
I have that DVD. It's awesome.
Or it was Pixar movies. And there would come some times where I'm just so tired of watching every Pixar movie for the upteenth time, or watching Blue Man Group for seriously the 1000th time. I've probably seen that. I'm surprised I didn't burn out my DVD player.
Which makes sense because your son is a drummer now.
Right. But, you know, I would put it on either Hub or Boomerang, and he would see these classic cartoons that you and I would grow up with. How old does that make you feel that they're classics now, right?
Oh, shit.
But he would watch them, and he would love them. So, yeah, it's great that they're showing these old classics again.
Come on, man. They're not, 20 years now. Oh, my God.
Classic.
Oh, my God. So, I do have to say, I did grow up with some of the cartoons of your era.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about G.I. Joe.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I never really watched G.I. Joe that much. I played with the G.I. Joe figures, of course.
Now, which ones? Like the doll?
No, not the doll,
or
but
the
the actual
figure.
Hasbro action figures, yeah.
Oh, right on. I had a full set of those.
Nice.
I even had the vehicles. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
And when you're a kid and you have a swimming pool and a G.I. Joe boat,
Oh, yeah.
you're busy for hours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Seriously. I used to play with them in the bathtub. I used to bring them in the bathtub. I had this thing with Sergeant Slaughter called the Warthog.
Oh,
and
nice.
it was just one of those amphibious, like, tanks. Oh, my God, dude. That was great. But anyways, tangent as usual. Continue.
Also, Transformers.
Oh, the original Transformers was awesome. You know, oh my God. I watched that damn show so much. Optimus Prime was my favorite. I think it was almost everybody's favorite, personally.
It was Grimlock.
Oh, yeah. Grimlock was...
Grimlock! Me like yum yum. Oh, wait, that's a different one. Sorry.
No, Grimlock was awesome. I hated frickin' Starscream. He was nothing but a little whiny bitch.
I was just going to say that. He was always in Megatron's ear. Well, Master, have you done this? Yeah, it's just...
I don't know who does his voice.
Monday morning quarterback, that's totally him.
Good God, dude. He was frickin' annoying. And, you know, in the old Transformers series, we had the real Bumblebee. The little Volkswagen Beetle.
Volkswagen Bug. I don't know. I kind of like him better as a Camaro.
You know, when the first Transformers movie came out, I didn't like the fact he was a Camaro because you know of the show. But now that this is going on 4 iterations of the Transformer movies, I can't see him anything else than a Camaro.
A Camaro. Yeah. Now, I think I saw an episode recently that it was like Bumblebee. Like, wait, that's not Bumblebee.
Yeah. I think that was in the first one. I think that was in the very first one where they were like
Oh yeah, in the first one they make it a joke. He's like, "What about the bug? It's got racing stripes." Dad, bugs aren't cool.
Yeah. That was awesome. It was a
nice little nod.
Yeah, that was really cool.
But one thing that I do miss out of the new movies, other than good acting, is Optimus Prime's trailer.
Right? Wasn't that thing
like toted all of his badass weapons?
Yeah, that was like a mini command center. What the fuck?
What happened?
Yeah, now it's just some like empty shell. Now, come on.
Yeah, no, he doesn't even have a trailer now. It's just the tractor. Optimus Prime is just the tractor, no trailer.
That's right.
And if you do see a scene with him as a trailer, it's just like a disguise type thing.
Right.
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just hauling a load.
Oh God. Yeah, it's a load, all right. That's for sure.
Yeah, a load of crap. Yeah. Come on. It wouldn't be an average geek show if we didn't bag on it a little bit.
You know what was really stupid? I thought was Transformers Beast Wars. Optimus Prime was a fucking gorilla.
No. It wasn't Optimus Prime.
It wasn't Optimus Prime?
It was Optimus Primal.
Oh, God, that's right.
I'm sorry. I liked Beast Wars.
Are you serious?
Now, they released it on Netflix, and I went back and watched it, and I was like, oh, this is shit.
Really?
But as a kid, I remember liking it because my favorite character was Cheetor. Or Cheetor. Yeah, I think it was Cheetor.
Okay, yeah.
Just because he was like the Deadpool of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, he had a mouth on him. I also liked, I think his name was Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
He was the rhinoceros one.
Yeah.
And he had like freaking Gatling gun pistols. And that was fucking awesome. And, I just loved the whole series when I was a kid. I just remember, every morning before school, there was 2 shows that I would watch while I was waiting for the bus and
Right.
eating breakfast.
Yeah.
The first show was, of course, Beast Wars. And the next show, not many people know about or remember.
Okay.
But I remember it being pretty freaking awesome just because the concept was cool.
Yeah.
And that show was called Mummies Alive. It was.
I have never heard of that.
Most people haven't, but it was really good. Or I remember it being really good. It was basically the premise of the show was this boy. It took place in modern times in San Francisco.
Okay.
This boy was a direct descendant of a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. And there were these 5 mummies that were the protector of the pharaoh. And there was a spell cast over them that when the reincarnation of the pharaoh appeared, that they would rise from the dead to protect him. And there was, of course, this Imhotep character that was the villain,
Right.
that would try and kidnap the boy to extract like the pharaoh juice or, harm the boy and claim more power.
Right.
And it was awesome because these mummies had like battle armor that when they pressed like a button, it was like all Stargate and shit.
Yeah.
They'd press this button
Yeah.
and their armor would come down and, they'd pull out weapons and cool shit. And their armor for each one of them was a different Egyptian god.
Oh, so it's totally like Stargate almost.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, the leader of the group was, of course, Ra.
Okay.
And then there was one that was like a hippopotamus, another one that was some, like an ibis, I think.
He is fabulous looking as Raw, though, in Stargate.
Yeah, he was all wrapped up. He still had wrappings
okay,
on him.
okay.
But then they had a layer, and their layer, to get into it, you had to go through a sarcophagus in the Egyptian museum. And then the evil bad guy
So
built...
it's kind of like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where they had to...
I remember it being better. It was just an awesome show, and it was kind of done like an anime style.
Okay.
But it was more like, Saturday morning cartoon mixed with anime, mixed with Egyptian folklore.
Yeah.
And there was all kinds of cool little like one-off baddie guys. It was a really cool show. I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube now.
Yeah.
But speaking of anime, do you remember a show called The Centurions?
I have never seen that. No.
Oh my god, it's on Boomerang.
Okay.
It's on Boomerang now. It used to be during the summer when I was out of school.
Yeah.
I remember if I wasn't doing some little like zoo school or Camp Sea World or something that my mom had set up for me to do, so I wasn't sitting around all summer.
Yeah.
I was parked in front of the TV watching Cartoon Network and their summer run because they did a whole special series of shows for the summer,
Right.
just for kids, to do something to do while they're out of school. And one of the shows was The Centurions.
Huh.
And it was a total like futuristic 3 guys against the world kind of thing. The villains were Doc Terror and his cyborg companion Hacker.
Oh my god.
And they had these exosuits
Yeah.
that they wore. And when they would go into battle, there was a Centurion land, air, and sea. And when they'd go into battle, they'd call up to the space station Skybolt, and they would beam down like battle systems that would attach to their exosuit. And their password to have these pieces attached to their suit was Power Extreme. Now, thinking back on it, I'm like, oh my god, that's so corny.
Right? Seriously.
But I was obsessed with this show.
Yeah, yeah.
And then later they kind of jumped the shark. They added Centurion Energy and Centurion Native American.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even think that was his name. I think it was like Centurion Nature or something like that.
Good gosh.
But they even had like a husky, like a dog.
Yeah.
And the dog had its own little exosuit with like a little cannon on the side. But I remember being like obsessed with this show, and I wanted action figures, but I could never find them. Because come to find out, this show was made in the early 80s.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I was like, all right.
Wonder if you can find them on eBay. Or
Oh, now you can. They're all over the place.
Oh,
but
okay.
I just have no desire to buy them now.
Right, yeah, yeah. Yeah, speaking of anime, as I mentioned before, my favorite cartoon was Voltron.
Right.
It's, that was kind of anime style. Yeah, so another one of my favorite shows was Robotech.
Robotech.
It
I've never heard of it.
really it was really popular, obviously in the 80s. But it went on for a while. It started off with basically it started off as this like the best way I can describe it is like an aircraft carrier, but in outer space. It was called the SDF-1, right? And it had like a city built inside it.
Dude, that sounds awesome.
Right? No, it was freaking awesome. And then they had planes like fighter planes that looked like F-14 Tomcats with their wings that
the swept wings
back and everything. And those things turned into freaking robots. They like transformed into these robots.
What?
Yeah.
This sounds a lot like Gundam.
It's very similar. It's in the similar style of Gundam.
Same family.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it was really, really cool. There was this alien race called the Zentradi, and they were like the bad guys, and they wanted to destroy Earth. And there was actually oh my god, there was like the leader of the Skull Squadron. His name was Rick Hunter, and he had this freaking like little teenage, well, not a teenager, but this young woman who was a singer, and she was like this whiny chick that was a singer, and you have a whiny voice like this. And she was so annoying. Her name was Min-Mei.
You're killing the show for me, man. At first I was like, yes, awesome. Now you're telling me about this. It's just like,
no, okay, so there was that part, Earth versus the Zentradi, and then there's another portion of the Robotech saga called Southern Cross, where they were actually these motorcycles, right? And then they would transform into like full on body armor for.
What the hell was with the 80s and transforming?
Awesome. Transformers was a big thing, and I think that really started over in Japan, actually, with all the robots.
Spun a bunch of rip-offs.
Yeah, I mean, Robotech was around in 84. I think around the same time.
Transformers started as like 82?
Yeah,
83?
I'm not sure.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, but roughly around the same time. But yeah, that was one of my favorite series growing up as well, was Robotech.
So let's go to the Facebook page and see what some of our nerd overlords had to say about their favorite cartoons growing up.
Okay.
So we've got Nerd Overlord Jeff.
Yep.
That says he really loved the early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm hoping he's not talking about the movie.
No, he's talking about the cartoon show.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, because in the early 90s there was a cartoon show,
That's
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was awesome. I was a fan of that show as well. I mean, I had the action figures, I had the underwear. I even had. I remember one year for Christmas. I forget who it was. I think it was either my mother or my grandmother. For Christmas, got me a Ninja Turtles pajama set, and it was 4 pairs of shorts, 4 shirts, and 4 head bandanas, and one for each one of the turtles.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
So many of these cartoon shows were like money machines because they'd make action figure sets and play sets,
right?
And like, I can't even tell you. The Real Ghostbusters, the cartoon show.
Yeah. I remember that.
Oh my god, I had every toy.
Did you?
I even had the giant firehouse.
Oh,
that the big giant Ecto-1 could drive into.
Oh my god.
Oh man,
I wanted that Ecto-1 so freaking bad.
I think that Ecto-1 ended up becoming like the burnt out car Hulk in my post-apocalyptic G.I. Joe war. Because I mean, as a young kid, when you get toys like that, you lose pieces, they break.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or you go, hey, this would look better like this, and you snap off part.
Yep. Oh god. You remember that show Mask?
I remember its existence. I don't recall ever seeing an episode.
It was cool, but in hindsight, I loved it as a kid. But in hindsight, really stupid. But anyways, on that subject of breaking toys to make them
cooler,
I had a Mask. It was a Camaro, like the old 80s Camaro, and this thing had like gull wing doors, right? And part of the whole this car was. It had gull wing doors and had rocket launchers like on the inside of the doors. Right, this is what it transformed into, and it could fly and all this shit. I freaking used that as like some type of like GI Joe thing. I think I set that thing on fire too. I mean. When I went through in my fire phase, I think I set that thing on fire.
I was never allowed to have a fire phase.
Oh, neither was I, but,
You found a way.
Yeah, I found a way.
No, I mean, I think every toy that we had eventually worked its way into a G.I. Joe set.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
just
seriously.
Because G.I. Joes were the most badass.
Yeah.
All right, so continuing on with our nerd overlords. Nerd overlord Ryan says, Action League now.
Action League? What is that?
It was a stop-motion animation show. This is like Robot Chicken's predecessor.
Okay.
Originally, it was a part of another show called All That, and then Kablam on Nickelodeon, and later spun off into its own show. They took action figures or toys,
right,
and they use stop-motion animation to make them move and talk.
Oh, my God.
And in fact, one of the characters was a G.I. Joe action figure. I think it was Shipwreck in his diving suit.
That's too funny.
But I remember this show now. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
And, thank God we now have an adult version of that, Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Done by the incomparable Seth Green.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely with you on that, Ryan. That was a great show. Not necessarily a cartoon show, though.
Yeah.
It was stop-motion animation.
Yeah. Sounds cool, though.
Definitely, it was definitely a cool show, and I'm pretty sure you can find old episodes of it on YouTube. YouTube is the collector of all things.
Yeah, seriously.
Nerd Overlord Sean says, definitely the 90s TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Then he also goes on to say, Rocko's Modern Life. Oh, this show.
See,
this was
after my time.
This was part of the 90s awesomeness that was Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon during the 90s had some of the best shows on TV. You had Real Monsters. You had Rocko's Modern Life. You had Doug.
I remember Doug. Never got into that.
Do you know the Billy West from Futurama?
Yeah. He
voiced Doug.
Really?
And Porkchop.
Wow.
I mean, Billy. When we do our voice actor show, it's going to be like 90% Billy West because he has done so much.
Yeah. You know who does a lot of voiceover stuff, too, is the guy who does SpongeBob.
Tom Kenny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Guy's everywhere.
Not as much as Billy West, and not as much as Rob Paulsen.
I've heard of Rob Paulsen.
Rob Paulsen was the original Raphael.
Okay.
He's now Donatello in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon series. He's also the voice of Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, and the voice of Yakko from Animaniacs. All right, so maybe it'll be like 50-50 between Rob Paulsen and Billy West. So, Rocko's Modern Life, awesome. It's about a wallaby from Australia whose best friend is a cow. A yellow cow that wears red pants and has green hair.
Oh, my God.
I would say it's probably the predecessor to SpongeBob SquarePants.
Okay.
Because it had a lot of the same humor.
Yeah.
But way better. And he also says X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men that aired on Fox.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, I agree with 100% with all of those, Sean. The X-Men series was really great for its time.
Yeah.
I was over at a friend's house 2 weeks ago, and he was watching the original X-Men on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, I remember this show being awesome. I'll sit down and watch it with you. And the more I watched, the more I realized how craptacular it was. But it's like one of those things, when you're a kid, it's awesome. Then you grow up and you like understand more.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what did I see in this show?
That was kind of like Dukes of Hazzard for me.
It was awesome when you were a kid, and then it sucked when you grew up.
Yeah, I loved watching the Dukes of Hazzard when I was growing. I mean, who doesn't want to see a freaking Dodge Charger, right?
Yeah, I think it was a Charger.
I mean, who doesn't want to see a Dodge Charger jump 20 feet in the air across freaking rivers, right? And do the freaking with the Horn of Dixie. I mean, that's awesome. But then, exactly.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That was the intro to 1814.
Oh yeah.
In 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans, and we fought the bloody British in the town of New Orleans. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. Wasn't might as many as there was a while ago. Fired once more and they began to run it on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. I can keep going.
I know.
I know the whole song by heart. No,
But yeah, when I watched that just recently on Spike TV, I thought I actually used to love this show. No wonder it drove my dad frickin' crazy.
it was because of Daisy Duke. You know it was.
No, I didn't think Daisy Duke was all that. Even now, I'm looking at him like,
Oh, you weren't into Cooter, were you?
Well, I was into Cooter, but not Cooter from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, God, you had to go there. Now we go on to Nerd Overlord Christopher, who has quite the list. Remember, this is the same Nerd Overlord that said he couldn't pick a superhero movie, a favorite superhero movie.
Right.
He has quite the list.
Oh, really?
And some of these I was reading through and I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that show.
Yeah.
But he says Cardcaptor Sakura.
What?
Cardcaptor Sakura. It was kind of late 90s. And it was just...
I had graduated high school by then.
Some of us were still in middle school. Don't judge. But it was kind of on the tail end of the 90s, and it started the whole, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, Pokemon. Okay. It was at the start of that.
Yeah.
Or no, I think it was after Pokemon. Yeah, I think it was after Pokemon. But Reboot... It was a CGI show.
Oh, I remember that.
It was about this whole world inside a computer.
Yeah, I remember that.
Really fucking awesome show.
Yeah. For its time, that was pretty awesome.
It was pretty next gen, yeah. For the 90s. He also says X-Men, Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. And then he says in all caps, Batman fucking Beyond. For those of you who don't know what Batman Beyond is, it was what happens when Batman is too old to be Batman. He picks up this teenager who's in trouble on the streets.
What's up with Batman picking up teenagers?
Right? I have no idea.
Is Batman the biggest pedophile or something? No wonder the Dark Knight is like, no sidekicks for me, thank you.
I think we know the Dark Knight's dark secret now. No, but he trains this teenager who's kind of like, a troubled teen, how to be Batman.
Right.
It's total cyberpunk. So everything's futuristic. The bat suit has claws that are electrified through the bat suit. It has like a heads-up display.
Oh wow!
Bruce Wayne sits in the Bat Cave and talks to him and says, "Oh, go left." He takes on the role of Oracle. But it was a really awesome series. I think it's on Netflix.
I've seen it on Netflix. Yeah.
If it is on Netflix, go check it out. It's awesome.
I hear it. I've heard that series is really good.
And they bring back a lot of like some of the old Batman villains from the Batman animated series.
Yeah.
Like I think at one point he fights Clayface.
Oh, wow.
I know the Joker comes back.
Jesus Christ, how old's the frickin' Joker at that time?
Old.
If Bruce Wayne can't fight, I can't even imagine.
I think in that episode it was like Bruce Wayne and the Joker got together just to laugh about how many times they tried to kill each other. I know Superman makes an appearance in one of the episodes.
Really?
Or I think it's like a run of like 3 episodes.
Huh.
But
fuck old was Superman?
He was old, but he was still Superman.
Yeah.
Oh, because he's the son of Krypton. He doesn't age.
Doesn't age as quickly.
Blow me. Did I say that out loud? Oops. He also says Freakazoid, Gargoyles. Gargoyles was a Disney show. This was part of Disney Afternoons.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, you might remember it because the guy who played Riker in TNG, Star Trek, he was the voice of Xantos.
Really?
Or Xanados. I don't know. I don't remember it anymore. But yeah, he was the voice of like the major villain in the show.
Wow.
There were some serious actors that did stints on that show.
Right.
Well, it's Disney. They can get anybody they want.
Yeah, seriously.
Just throw money at people. You can get anybody you want.
Yeah.
So Gargoyles was a really awesome show. It was about gargoyles. It would basically, they were frozen in time. Originally, they were in medieval times. They were like protectors of the castle. And then something happens, and the mage of the castle casts a spell on them that they can only reawaken when the castle rises above the clouds. So what does this Xanados guy do? He puts he picks up the whole castle in Scotland and puts it on top of his skyscraper in New York. And all of a sudden the gargoyles come back to life. Because the thing is, they can only be awake during the night, and during the day they turn into stone statues.
Right.
So it was actually a really well done series, and it had a good long run. And there's still fans of it to this day that are like diehard gargoyle fans.
Nice.
Then he goes on to one that I had completely forgotten about, that I remember being a huge fan of. I had the action figures and everything. And that's the Pirates of Dark Water. It was an uber fantasy based show, and it surrounded these pirates. I don't remember too much about it. I just remember being obsessed with it when I was a kid.
Right.
And there was like this talking bird thing that had a super long swan neck, and it was awesome. He has quite a few other ones on here. I'm not going to go into them. I'm just going to read them off real quick. Knights of the Round Table. I don't recall that show. I think it was like some sort of futuristic version of the King Arthur tale. Street Sharks, which was a Saturday morning cartoon. It was kind of like they fell into a vat of something, and they went from being men to being walking, talking sharks.
So it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But with sharks.
Yeah.
And I think their catchphrase is they were going to take a bite out of crime.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This was the age of, painful cliches. And then, of course, the last one, which was awesome and actually became a live-action series for a little bit, The Tick.
Okay. I've heard of that one.
So that's what our nerd overlords have to say.
Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Awesome stuff. Do you have any other favorites, Philippe?
Oh, geez. One of my kind of all-time favorites, and it's a classic that I grew up watching, I think they still run it, maybe not, is Scooby-Doo. I used to love Scooby-Doo.
Now we have to talk. Okay. Which version of Scooby-Doo?
The old version of Scooby-Doo.
The original Scooby-Doo.
The original Scooby-Doo, yeah.
Okay, because we've also had What's New Scooby-Doo.
Right.
We've had a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Right.
We've had Scooby and Scrappy-Doo.
Right, which, holy crap, that was horrible.
We've had Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Yeah.
I think that was the one where they brought in, like, celebrities.
Yeah.
And they teamed up, like, one of them was they teamed up with Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin.
Right.
Oh, the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, yes.
Didn't they team up with
that.
Phyllis Diller once, too?
I think so. Yeah, so terrible.
And we
talk
have
about running the franchise into the ground. Jesus.
Right? Now, a lot of people may have only learned this recently because of his passing.
Right.
But the late, great Casey Kasem was the voice of Shaggy.
Yeah. He was that forever.
Like. He was even doing the new stuff.
Yeah. Up until like a couple months before he passed. He passed away.
Well, up until a couple of months when he was kidnapped and then passed away.
Yeah.
So, but he will be missed.
Definitely.
I'll definitely miss, his voice doing the top 40.
Yep.
And of course
he had that golden voice.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I loved Scooby-Doo. I thought speaking of Casey Kasem, I thought Shaggy was freaking annoying.
Yeah. Well, and everybody knew they were sneaking off to the van to get stoned.
Right.
Why were they always hungry?
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, and Scrappy, I watched some of the ones with Scrappy. And wasn't it like Scooby-Doo's brother or like...
In some incarnations, I think it was his... I don't think they ever really explained who Scrappy was other than he was family.
Right.
but I think a lot of people thought that he was like his nephew.
Yeah.
And then there was a few people that were like, no, Scrappy Doo is his son.
Yeah.
That's how he has the last name of Doo.
Like, first of all, what the hell was Scrappy? Like,
It was a puppy.
Okay, but a puppy with a gigantic head, for crying out loud.
Well, there are a lot of puppies that have gigantic heads, and then they grow into them.
A Great Dane? I mean, come on. The dude was like smaller than a frickin' Chihuahua that had the head the size of a Great Dane. That's ridiculous. I know it's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon, man.
But yeah, man, when I was little, I wanted to be like Fred. I thought that guy was frickin' awesome.
You wanted to be the ditzy guy with the swagger?
Dude, it was all his swagger. He was tough. He was like...
You just wanted to wear an ascot. Perhaps
I secretly wanted to wear the white sweater and an ascot. Or perhaps because I thought Daphne was hot. It was that whole like kind of, yeah.
Don't hate on me for this, but I always kind of had a thing for Velma.
Yeah.
Daphne seemed too artificial for me.
Yeah,
she seemed
really
very
did.
high maintenance.
She really did, which I thought was. I don't know if you ever watched the movies, and if you have, I'm sorry, but I have an 11-year-old son, so yeah, I've watched the movies, the live action movies,
once, twice, or 300 times.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because they really carried out the characters well. In that Freddie Prinze Jr. was Fred, and they made him the ditzy, cool guy.
Wasn't Sarah Michelle Gellar Daphne?
Yeah, and it was perfect because she was totally like this high maintenance, prim and proper, like little princess.
Yeah, but I think I remember her kicking some ass too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's Buffy.
Yeah, but in the live action series, a movie, Velma was freaking hot.
Yeah, she was.
It wasn't. I don't remember Velma looking like that.
And for me as a kid, and still to this day, it's not so much about looks. It's about the brain.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's like if you can't carry on a conversation with me, sorry. But no, it just, and I think Velma was, one of the first strong female characters.
Yeah, she really was. She really was.
Because here was somebody that the team relied on to use her brain.
Yeah.
And because of her brain power, the crimes got solved.
Right.
Yeah, some of the other team found clues, but it was always Velma that put it together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, seriously.
So,
you got to admit the Mystery Machine was pretty awesome.
Dude, there's a guy out there who found some kind of van. He figured out what kind of van they had modeled the Mystery Machine after, went out, found the van, restored it, and made it into a Mystery Machine.
Oh, that is awesome.
I think it was at Comic-Con one year.
That's so freaking awesome.
It is.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
Well, I have a couple more if you'll indulge me.
Let's do it.
Okay. So Disney during the 90s was really banging on all cylinders as far as their Disney afternoons and their Disney Saturday mornings. They even released an album of the cartoon theme songs from the Disney afternoon.
Yeah.
But I may or may not have had that album. I may or may not still have that album.
Which means he does. And he still listens to it every day.
No, not every day.
Every week on shuffle.
Okay, maybe every other month or something like that. But no, the point is, I still, it's still awesome. The music is still awesome. It, brings all back, those images of when you're a kid in your pajamas or just getting home after school, and it's like, all right, it's time for Darkwing Duck. Or, all right, it's time for Bonkers. That stupid little miniature cheetah that was just off the wall.
So ridiculous.
And then who doesn't remember DuckTales? Ooh.
Oh, yeah. DuckTales was great.
Have you seen...
Scrooge was an asshole, though.
He was an asshole, but with a name like Scrooge, do you expect him to be Mr. Nice?
How did that guy swim in money?
Have you seen the scientifically accurate DuckTales?
No.
Oh, my God. We'll have to post a link to it. It is definitely not safe for work. It is definitely something you don't want to watch when there's children around, because it talks about how ducks are rapists.
Oh my God!
And it gets worse than that. I'm not going to go into it.
Terrible.
No, it's funny, and it actually addresses that. Like if Scrooge had tried to jump into a pool full of gold coins, he'd break his neck. But hey, cartoon physics, right?
Exactly. I mean, look at Wile E. Coyote. How many times has that guy?
Oh my god!
ate
I
it?
cannot believe we didn't even talk about Looney Tunes. Oh well, we kind of did with Tiny Toons.
Yeah.
No, but I think Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes. I mean, that was in every kid's, Saturday morning cartoon lineup.
Those are classics.
Yeah, because when the Bass Fishing Show came on, you switched over to Cartoon Network for some Tom and Jerry. I never forget. Like every Saturday morning at like 11 o'clock, it's like, well, looks like I got to find the remote because the Bass Show is going to be on soon. Some old fat guy. Now you got to be real quiet and drop your lure into the water just like this. It's just like, oh, why is this a show? But, yeah, that's pretty much what I've got. We're going to leave that post up about the cartoons, your favorite cartoon show from when you were a kid. We'll leave that up for a while. And just go ahead and let us know what your favorite cartoon show was in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, totally.
And we will probably do a follow-up to this when we start doing our voice actors show, which will be probably within the next couple of weeks. Oh, quick bit of housekeeping. Our comic book club has been postponed due to a couple people wanting to pick up the comic and participate. So we will do that next week. It was originally supposed to be this week's show, but we're going to do it next week and have a full comic book discussion. Once again, the comic that we are reading for this comic book club is Mouse, M-A-U-S. Find it at your local comic book store, or you can go online to Amazon.com and pick it up there. If you get the one on Amazon, though, it is the full series. We are just doing book 1 of the series. And with that, I think we are going to close out this week's show. Thank you so very much for listening. And once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm Philippe.
We'll see you later.